So for today's video, I wanted to chat about all of the books that I've read so far in 2021. I thought that might be fun to maybe start a discussion in the comments about our favorite books, what we recommend, what we don't. But first, I would love if you guys could let me know what you think about this new camera. This is the first time I've ever filmed with this camera. I really hope that I'm in focus. I actually usually shoot on my phone, and this is my Canon 60D. Way back in the day, I used to shoot with my Canon Rebel. I think it's the T3. So it's been a while since I've shot with a DSLR, but I think I like the way that it looks in the viewfinder. I want you guys to let me know how it looks and how it sounds, because that is what I would need to work on the most in terms of my YouTube quality, is definitely the sound, because I have a couple cameras that shoot really great video, but not the best audio. So let me know how you like it. Do you prefer it on my phone? In the description of all my videos, I have the camera that I filmed it with. Sometimes, like in vlogs, I've filmed different clips on different cameras, and I try to always make note of that in the description. So let me know what it looks like. If you like it, let me know. But today, I thought it might be fun to chat about some of the books that I have read this year. So this was one of the first books that I read this year. This was actually sent to me by my cousin, who's a manager at a Schuller's. Are there Schuller's everywhere? Or is that just a Michigan thing? Okay, I think it actually is just a Michigan thing. I already can tell that I don't like the white balance. Don't like the white balance. So my cousin is a manager at a bookstore here in Michigan, and she was actually able to get a hold of this and send it to me as a advanced reader. So I was able to read this before it came out, which was so cool. And I did really enjoy it. It is called Believe It by Kern Lima. She is the founder of IT Cosmetics. And I love this stinking CC cream. And she talks all about where this came from, how it started. She talks about her children, how they came to be, her husband. She was on a season of, is it called Big Brother? I think she was on Big Brother. She talks about that. She talks about QVC. She talks about building a company from the ground up. She talks about selling her company. She does spend a couple chapters on Oprah and her relationship with Oprah, which I found, I guess, unnecessary to just talk about it that much, but if you really love Oprah, and it was in there for a point, you know, thinking about being able to build a relationship with someone who you really look up to, that's really special. So it definitely was in there for a reason. I'm not like a huge Oprah fan. I don't have any issues with her. I just felt like it was raising her to a level that was like, Oprah. Am I gonna get canceled for that? But I did really enjoy this book, and if you know me, I always read the book physically. If I have the physical book, I read it with my eyes, but I also listen to it at the same time. And I couldn't do that because I didn't have access to the audio, because this was an advanced reader. So the fact that I was able to read it with no audio is pretty impressive. I read this one again this year. This is a second time around. I have read this book before, and I love it. It is one of my all-time favorite books. It's called Rhythms of Renewal by Rebekah, Lyons, Trading Stress and Anxiety for a Life of Peace and Purpose. And initially, my mom actually sent me this book, but I had already heard about it on the Happy Hour with Jamie Ivey. I listened to her interview when this book first came out, and I love this book. If you're someone like me who struggles with anxiety or panic attacks, I talk about that in depth in this video right here. Ooh, I got thrown off now. I don't know where it is. In one of these cards here, I will link the video where I talk about my mental health journey. And this book unpacks 4 different rhythms that Rebekah Lyons has sort of designed and implemented in her own life, and it is so helpful. And I just remember blowing through this book the first time I read it in, I guess it would have been 2020. So then this year I kind of was remembering certain things, and I wanted to remember it better, so I thought I'd better go back and reread it, and I'm so glad that I did. I think this is gonna be one that I do revisit often, because it is filled with such amazing insights, and the rhythms that she discusses and has kind of designed are so helpful for anybody, not just people who deal with mental struggles, which I feel like mental struggles is all of us, but so there's 2 input rhythms and then 2 output rhythms, and I love how that's sort of broken down. I can just see it on like a PowerPoint. But there's the rest, restore, connect, and create. So connect and create are those output rhythms, and then rest and restore are input rhythms. So she talks about rest journaling, Sabbath, morning routines, Bible reading, things like that. Restore is the second input rhythm, which is kind of more about like your physical health, getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, exercising, finding a type of exercise that you love, which I am a huge advocate for. I have absolutely fallen in love with yoga. Seeking adventure, taking a walk, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, things like that is what she talks about in the sort of like restore section of the book. And then Connect, which was a great chapter to read during COVID, which this book came out before COVID. That one's pretty self-explanatory, connecting with other people online, in person, with COVID, without COVID, all those things. Just finding someone to connect with, inviting people to your home, making yourself available to go out and meet people. And then Create, which is one of my favorite ones. She also talks a lot in that section about like your inner child, and like taking time to play is so important. So these 4 rhythms I love because she kind of has it all laid out in a design where you have all your bases covered. Rest, restore, connect, create. That's like all encompassing. There's like nothing else left to cover. Everything that you need to make an effort to establish in your life is kind of under one of those umbrellas. So I really love this book, and it's definitely not the last time I'm going to read it. This is a more recent one. I read Fervent by Priscilla Shirer. I don't know how to explain. I struggled to read this book. I truly do not know why. It is very well written. I picked it up because I need to learn how to pray better. I don't really pray. If I do pray, I'm journaling, and I'll kind of like make my requests known to God in journaling, which is fine, but I don't talk to God enough. And so maybe I should watch this movie, because I haven't seen this movie, The War Room, but I read this book. I tried it a couple of times, and I don't know what it was. I just couldn't. It was the enemy or something. I could not get into this book. But I finally finished it, and I'm so happy that I did. It did inspire me. I picked up a new journal off of Etsy, just a very simple craft cover, spiral bound, hardcover journal to pray in. And that's definitely still a work in progress, but this is a great book. For some reason, I struggled to get into it, but one thing I do love about this book is that she started every chapter with, if I were your enemy, I would do this. And that just really gave me, oh shoot, I am letting him win. Of course my enemy would want to do that. Why? It almost seemed in some sense like she was giving the enemy a lot of credit, but he gets a lot of credit because he's there for all of us. He's in my life every single day because I live in a fallen world. So yes, maybe I should be thinking more about God than about the enemy, but it's like a defense thing. You have to think about the enemy in order to protect yourself from the enemy. So because she started out every chapter with, if I were your enemy, this is what I would do, I was like, oh shoot, yeah, of course he would. It was just a different way of thinking of it, and I really responded to it well. So that is a really good book. This one is one that I read because of my husband. I love my husband so much. So much. But there was a time earlier this year where he was absolutely obsessed with real estate, and he still kind of is, and we still talk about it, but he was listening to podcasts and joining all these online communities and things, and he said that every single person recommended this book. So we both decided to read it. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad: What the Rich Teach Their Kids About Money That the Poor and Middle Class Do Not. And it's basically, the author talks about his dad, his biological dad, and then his friend's dad. One is rich, one is poor, or working class, middle class, not really poor. And just kind of dives deep into what they each taught him about money. I primarily listened to this one on audio, and perhaps it would have been easier for me to understand if I had actually physically looked at it as well. Money is something that, which is why my husband really wanted me to, look into it, because money is something that's very hard for me to understand. I'm not great at econ and understanding assets and liabilities and investing. Like, forget about it. It's very hard for me to understand. So this does break it down pretty easy to understand. My favorite part is the anecdotes, because I can very easily take something away from anecdotes because I can relate to them. But once you get into like definitions and, more technical concepts, that's when I start to struggle a little more. So it is a good book. It's extremely widely recommended. So I definitely think it's worth a shot. It's not my favorite book I've ever read by any means, but it's not a bad book. This stinking book. Have you guys ever read this book? This is my mom's maybe second favorite book of all time. It's definitely her favorite fiction book of all time. This is actually my mom's copy. I think I'm technically supposed to pass this along and give it to somebody else. There's a list of women's names in the inside cover, and they're mostly from 2012. And it actually says my name and my maiden name, October 2013, but I did not finish it at all. So then right below that is my married name, and it says March 2021. But this is a fiction book. The first few chapters, I sent a picture of myself sobbing to my mother, and I was like, why would you make me read this? This is extremely, extremely hard to read in the first couple of chapters. And I don't even have kids, but it does, trigger warning, have to do with harming a child. But basically, this horribly awful, disgusting, traumatizing thing happens to this child. And the father of that child gets a letter in his mailbox one day from someone who he believes to be God. There's no postage, there's no footprints in the snow, and it is a letter from God inviting him to go back to this shack where the crime was sort of committed. And like I said, oh my gosh, I was sobbing. My poor husband, I was reading this book in bed, and my poor husband was like, are you okay? Can I help you? What's going on? It's really, 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 really hard to read the first couple of chapters, but it does get better, and I'm so glad that I read this book. It is so interesting, and I haven't seen the movie, but I remember when they came out with the movie and everybody was freaking out about Octavia Spencer being God, playing God, and I thought people were mad because that isn't how it's written in the book. That is exactly how it's written in the book. God, the physical person of God, it's hard to explain. This is a book about the Trinity, and it kind of helps me a little bit understand the Trinity. It's kind of about the Trinity, and it's kind of about pain and suffering, and why does God allow things like this to happen? Where tragedy confronts eternity. That's the subtitle of this book. So anyway, I remember when the character of God was introduced in this book, I texted my mom and I was like, oh my goodness, Octavia Spencer is the perfect casting. Why were people so upset? That is exactly how it's described in this book. Anyway, it's a wonderful book. Like I said, the first 3 or 4 chapters are so hard to get through, but once you do, it's incredible. I read through this little nugget. This one's so cute. It's called Make Their Day, 101 Simple Powerful Ways to Love Others Well. It's by Kern, Ehman, and this is the perfect book to pick up so that anytime someone in your life goes through something hard, you grab this and you flip to one. Okay, number 24, say it with flowers on a random ordinary day. Do you purchase fresh flowers only for anniversaries, birthdays, or Valentine's Day? Why not celebrate your family life with fresh cut flowers for any and every reason? Instead of just a few times a year, how about most any time of year? Did your 5th grader who struggles with his piano lessons just get promoted to a new level book? Did your preteen daughter land a part in a school play? How about the 5-year-old who slept at grandma's all night for the very first time? It's just 101 ways to show somebody that you care about them. And it is broken up into, like, for your circle of friends, within your own family, around the town, and then across the miles or through the screen, which was a perfect section, of course, for COVID when we were all staying at home. Or I know some places in the world still are having to stay at home. So this is a wonderful, wonderful book. And you know what it kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of those books that we, like girls my age, we used to read those American Girl books. I remember I had one about like sleepovers and like all these different things that you could do at like a slumber party. This is that for adults. And this also could be for kids. You could totally grab one of these and decide, you know, me and my daughter are gonna dig into your past to unearth an impactful person. Oh yeah, like a teacher or a church worker. That would be perfect for you and your daughter. This one is a super quick and easy read. My favorite. This book will help you develop daily habits of thoughtfulness, celebrate others with unique ideas, reconnect with friends and family, make the encouragement of others a priority, sprinkle kindness in a culture of cruel. So if you ever have someone in your life going through something and you just think like, I want to do something for them, but I don't know what to do, this has a bunch of ideas for you. 101 to be exact. This one is called Maybe You Should Talk to Someone, a Therapist, Her Therapist, and Our Lives Revealed. This book is so good, and honestly, when I got it in the mail, I was like, ooh, that's a thick one. I got nervous. But this is another fiction book. I'm so proud of myself. There's 2 fictions in this little stack. Therapy has always intrigued me. I always said that if I went to college, I would go for some type of psychology. I've been in and out of therapy my whole life, and this book goes through the therapist herself and going through a breakup, things like that. How she got pregnant, but then it also dives deeper into a few of her patients and their lives and how she helps them in their world. When a personal crisis causes her world to come crashing down, Lori Gottlieb, an experienced therapist with a thriving practice in Los Angeles, is suddenly adrift. Enter Wendell, himself a veteran therapist with an unconventional style, whose sessions with Gottlieb will prove transformative for her. As Gottlieb explores the inner chambers of her own patients' lives, a self-absorbed Hollywood producer, a young newlywed diagnosed with a terminal illness, a senior citizen who feels she has nothing to live for, and a self-destructive 20-something who can't stop hooking up with the wrong guys, she finds that the questions they are struggling with are the very questions she is bringing to Wendell. So that's really all you need to know about this book. It's incredible. It really goes to show you that you don't have any idea what people are going through in their lives. Anybody you look at could be going through crisis and you have no idea. And it proves the importance of therapy. So this is a really, really good one. And I did end up listening to most of this on audio, but this is a really, really good one. Definitely recommend it. And then there's a couple that I don't actually have physically here with me. One of them is Stop Calling Me Beautiful by Phylicia Masonheimer. When I first heard the title of that book, I thought it was very like third wave feminism. And I started following Phylicia Masonheimer on Instagram and I got really interested in that book. I listened to a couple episodes of her podcast and my mom actually had a copy of that book and that's hers. So I read it and then I gave it back to her. That's why I don't have it here with me, but I actually really, really enjoyed it. And I have read some not so positive reviews about it. And most of the things that I read are that it seems a little bit stuffy and holier than thou. I didn't really get that feeling while I read it. I also listened to that one on audio. It's not narrated by the author, which I typically don't prefer, but I don't know. I did enjoy that audiobook. But the title is kind of, I think it's meant to ruffle feathers. It's more so just to prove and to show you that this is not another book about women in the church and God created you to be beautiful, but he did, but it goes deeper, which is why it's called Stop Calling Me Beautiful, because it's not about surface level Christianity. It goes deeper. You're a beautiful daughter of the Most High King, and it's true, but it's not the whole truth. The beauty of being God's daughter has a backstory. If you're tired of hearing the watered-down Christian teaching and hungry for a deeper spiritual life, one that gives you real answers to your hardest questions, Stop Calling Me Beautiful teaches you how. You will learn how to pursue the truth of who God is and who you are in relationship to Him, how to study scripture and how your view of God determines how you face life's challenges, how legalism, shallow theology, and false teaching keep you from living boldly as a woman of the Word, and how to experience God's presence in painful circumstances. Jesus doesn't offer a powerless salvation. He makes your brokenness part of His whole redemption story if you allow Him to. Don't settle for feel-good faith. If you want victory over insecurity, fear, shame, and the circumstances you are facing, it's time to embrace Jesus. All of Him. I really loved this book. I remember really, really enjoying it. I remember giving it back to my mom and being like, read it. It's a good one, because she got it somehow and then I read it before she did. Steal my mom's stuff all the time. The subtitle is Finding Soul Deep Strength in a Skin Deep World. So the title Stop Calling Me Beautiful is meant to ruffle feathers, but it's meant to be like, go deep. You're not just beautiful. That's not all you are. So I've read some negative reviews, but I did really enjoy it and I do recommend it. I could probably mention really quick, I'm not done with it. That's the one I'm reading right now. It's called Breaking Free from Body Shame by Jess Connolly. And I really, really enjoyed this one so far. I saw the cover and the tagline of this book and I was like, that's mine. I need it. That's mine. That's mine right now. Thank you. Thank you. And I need to be better. I haven't picked it up in a couple days, several days. It's called Breaking Free from Body Shame. Dare to reclaim what God has named good. And that's what I needed to hear, because my Instagram feed, I have curated my Instagram to really, really help me go deeper into my body image. I do not have good body image. I do not have a healthy relationship with food, but I'm working on it. And so when I saw the title and the cover of this book, I immediately wanted it because there's a zillion books out there, but this is one of the first ones and it came out recently, so that's helpful. It's being marketed a lot, but dare to reclaim what God has named good. I was like, oh my gosh, what does God say about my body? I realized that I hadn't even looked at it that way. So I was like, that's for me. And I'm in the middle of it and it's really, really great. It's not like a page turner, but it's definitely one that I need to hear those things. And I do need to dig deeper into what God actually says about my physical body. But yes, that is everything for this video. That's most of the books that I have read this year so far. I'm a slow reader, so don't judge me. So hopefully you guys have gotten a little bit of a look into the kind of books that I like. Let me know in the comments your favorite book of all time, and then your favorite book that you've read recently or that's come out recently. Let me know if you like fiction or nonfiction. Let me know your favorite genre. Let's just like talk about books down below. That sounds like fun to me. So that's everything for this video. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss any future videos of mine, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. You know, getting on a, which is, slobbering all over everything. With retail, and retail, what? With the rich, what is the word I'm looking for? Did your 5th grader who struggles, why do you stop recording so fast? So hopefully you guys, I typically feel like I'm like not in the mood to film. I'm like, I'm gonna be so boring on camera. This is gonna suck. I don't want to film it. I have to post on Saturday and I feel like weird about filming. I feel like I'm never gonna be in a good enough mood to film. And then I sit down and get on camera and I'm like, and then I hate myself while I'm editing. Ugh.